We, as citizens of the United States, elect government officials at a local level like city and county elections, as well as on the state and national level. We usually vote for representatives whose ideals most closely represent our own. Sometimes our elected officials will hold the same morals as their constituents. Sometimes they won't. Sadly, this is where we as citizens begin to lose our voice. Special interest groups are an organization of people with shared ideas and attitudes who attempt to influence public policy. Due to our many differences, there is no way these groups could always represent the interests of every individual citizen. As you can see from this list, there are interest groups representing almost every issue. The issues represented by these groups are as varied as our population. Some exist to help and represent the disadvantaged, while others represent the elite. If you were to look through this list on your own, chances are you would find more than one interest group that you can identify with. One of the problems with special interest groups is that they can influence decisions on policies that are funded with taxpayer dollars, without actually considering the issues on both sides of the policy and how they may affect the majority of citizens. Then there are others that are dangerous simply because their actions do not identify with their stated mission. Yes, there are groups that represent different social issues and specific members of the population, but there are also those who represent partisan groups. This is what we found when looking at the special interest group, Independent Women's Voice. In our review through their website, iwvoice.org, we found the following information. The IWV makes claims on their website that they are a nonpartisan organization, women make up 50% of independent voters, and though the 41% of voters who identify as independents contributed to Democratic victories in 2006 and 2008, that voting bloc is now more conservative than identifiable Republicans, and that IWV is not motivated by party but by philosophy. IWV claims to be an independent group, but it is not. According to research we found on OpenSecrets.org, they specifically spent money to directly support Republican candidates or oppose Democratic candidates. That is not philosophical motivation. It is directly related to party representation. Then we see instances when private for-profit companies decide that they should be able to dictate policy or simply not practice the policies that they do not agree with. One area where we see this behavior is with the current Hobby Lobby debate in the U.S. Supreme Court. As a for-profit organization, Hobby Lobby should not be able to force a change in legislation. The religious beliefs of the owners are clouding their business judgment and allowing them to take this case up to the Supreme Court and ask for special treatment due to their religious affiliation. This news report sums up the case.
On Tuesday, the Supreme Court will hear arguments on a key challenge to the Affordable Care Act. The issue is whether family-owned for-profit businesses can be forced to provide cost-free access to certain contraceptive coverage to their employees, even if complying with the mandate violates the owner's religious beliefs. Joining us now to discuss the case, Chief Counsel for the Constitutional Accountability Center, Elizabeth Wydra, and also Lori Wyndham, Senior Counsel for the Becket Fund, which is representing the key employer in this case, Hobby Lobby. There is another. Welcome to you both. Good to see you.
Great to see you, Shannon.
All right, so let's talk about, to clarify for folks, what is and isn't at stake here. We're not talking about access to contraception. We're talking about who pays for it.
Right. So the Affordable Care Act provides that women who get an employer-sponsored health plan, that they receive contraception, the full range of contraception approved by the FDA with no sort of copay at the time. And that's very important because a lot of the decisions about which type of birth control to use are governed by cost. And so it's important that they have the full range of protection. That's what the law provides.
And Lori, I know that the Greens, the family that owns Hobby Lobby, one of the two employers in this case on Tuesday, they say that they don't object to contraception per se, but there are 4 specific methods they are objecting to because they believe they can trigger abortions, and that's in direct conflict to their faith.
Yes, that's exactly right. Hobby Lobby, the Green family doesn't have any objection to most forms of contraception. Hobby Lobby covers most forms of contraception in their plan. It's only 4 specific drugs and devices that could take a life at the very earliest stages, and that's what the Green family objects to.
So, how do you respond, though, to the government's argument essentially that corporations do not have religious beliefs? This isn't an order of nuns. This isn't a religious organization per se. It's a for profit company that doesn't engage in a religious mission. It may be the mission of the families personally, but the corporations themselves can't say and act as a person that they have religious beliefs.
We believe that Americans don't give up their religious freedom just because they open a family business. What the Supreme Court has said in other contexts, like the speech context, is that we don't look at the person, the entity, we look at the religious exercise. This is unquestionably a religious exercise, refusing to pay for something that could take a human life. And so the question here is not whether it's the Green family or the corporation, both of whom are part of this case. The question is this a sincere religious exercise? And the answer to that is yes. So it ought to be protected.
Elizabeth, do you think that the justices are going to act sort of as King Solomon in this case and try to find the very narrowest solution here that in some ways can balance these two interests? Is that possible?
Well, I think that Hobby Lobby's argument is truly unprecedented, and I think that the justices, including some of the most conservative justices on the court, are going to be concerned about its implications, for example, for corporate law. I think that Chief Justice Roberts will be concerned about the way that it potentially goes against fundamental principles of corporate law that separate the individual owners from the corporate entity itself. I think that Justice Kennedy will be concerned about allowing Hobby Lobby's owners to impose their own personal religious beliefs on their employees. Americans also don't give up their religious liberty when they sign up to go work for a craft store or a wood maker, and those employees might have very different beliefs from their employers. And I think that justices like Justice Scalia, who care about the original meaning of the Constitution, will find a problem with the fact that it's hard to square Hobby Lobby's vision of the First Amendment with the way that it's been practiced for the last more than 200 years.
Lori, does this equate to Hobby Lobby forcing its employees to share the religious beliefs of the owners of the company?
Absolutely not. Hobby Lobby's employees are free to make their own decisions, just as they always have been. They have a constitutional right to access contraception, and nothing about this case is going to change that. The simple question is this going to be paid for and covered by Hobby Lobby and the Green family, or is this something that the employees are responsible for on their own?
Hobby Lobby feels that as an employer, they have the right to dictate which healthcare services they are willing to cover for their employees. More specifically, they wish to dictate which contraceptives they deem appropriate for their employees. Regardless of the tremendous amount of protesting done against the Hobby Lobby move, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the craft store. The Washington Post reports that the Supreme Court's decision could be the start of a slippery slope. Hobby Lobby's special interest donations were at one time limited to tariffs against the faux flower industry. But recently, we found that Hobby Lobby, as a corporation, made a $20,000 donation to a special interest group, Health Policy Source, due to concern over the Affordable Care Act. Hobby Lobby is not a company usually concerned with medical issues, and as you can see, they were the only non-medical firm to pay money to the special interest group. It is the responsibility of the American consumers and voters to make informed decisions about the candidates they vote for and the companies we patronize. Accepting this behavior from private companies who infringe on the basic human rights of their employees make their actions excusable. Do not allow these companies who do not enforce the separation of church and state to impose their limitations on your freedom as Americans.